everybody to the SSL Premier League. We did just get done finishing 2 series, a couple of 2-0s. Dark smashing alive in that ZBT. And we're going to be jumping into Solar versus Stats.
They had a close match in playoffs, but this is just had to mention, of course, in round-robin formats, whether it's a promotions tournament or a regular tournament or even a group, it's basically tradition to always have the team kill on the first day or in the first match. So that is why they will face off against each other this week, and we'll get it away that way that there's never any possibility that in their match against each other it could affect any other standings, basically. So that's why they face each other first here. 22 and 25, very closely matched, and Splice, of course, has picked up 3 players, 1 of each race, the TY being the Terran representative for them, and this is a pretty good match. We saw them clash very well, and it was a very close series in playoffs. So when they face off against each other now, I'm expecting fireworks, sparks to be shown. Let's take a look at that map draft here as well. See where we are headed.
Yeah, it is July 3rd, so we're getting close to the 4th. That will be tomorrow. So I would expect some fireworks indeed, Wolf. But here we go. We got Solar, the Zerg player. He did make it into the finals of Premier Season 1, where he got absolutely shreked by Innovation. Wasn't the first person to experience that kind of pain.
Yep. He has definitely had his experience with getting destroyed by top-tier players because he makes it deep in almost every tournament he plays in. And I feel like his worst time of his career throughout Pro League, but after the Kespa era, he has really stepped it up to be a top-tier player here in Korea. Solar always been a good player going to overseas tournaments like DreamHacks, etc. Stats, still a runner-up here for SSL. He's a GSL champion now, though, and he wants to defend his title now. Well, not defend his GSL title right in the SSL, but defend his reputation, as he was unable to make it to the SSL finals. A lot of people were expecting that of him after his dominant performance in Season 1 of the GSL. So still a top-tier player, and again, as we say, all the matches every week are pretty good, but this is definitely one of my favorites for this week with the team kill to start things off.
Yeah, I'm liking it here. I would give the small favorite to Solar. I mean, his ZVP has always been really fantastic, and he looks in tippy-top form nowadays, so I'll give it to him. Maybe 2-1 would be my prediction. Let's take a look at the map list. It's going to be Newkirk, Precinct, Overgrowth, and Abyssal Reef, so a couple of shorter maps into a bit more of a defensive one for game number 3. But guys, we're ready to go. Game number 1 on Newkirk Precinct. It's going to start right now. Splice fighting is the... Okay, fly, better fly, tin air. Before the Splice memes. But down here in the bottom right, it is the Zerg player from Splice, Solar.
He's got his tag upside down. Oh boy.
Whoa.
The bottom left in yellow is his opponent and teammate Stats. So Solar's got his SSL championship badge being worn, even if his name is upside down on it. That's fine.
How do you mess that up?
Maybe that's his style, or maybe because we've all worn those pins. When you wear those pins, they get a little bit lopsided because if the pin is that little small pin that everyone got you, you start using them in kindergarten, you got the star, you felt really proud of yourself, you put the badge on.
Isn't that dangerous for kindergartners?
Well, usually a teacher puts it on, I guess. I don't know. I've never taught schools, but and I was a bad kid, so I don't even know. Maybe I did it wrong. But
they were given that so you could hurt yourself because they didn't like you in the class.
But anyway, the point is, it could easily spin. I could see why he would spin it. All right, well, it would
maybe
spin
he put it on and he was looking down and he's like, "Yeah, that's the correct direction. I can read my name."
Or maybe he just forgot that when because he's on camera, everything is reversed, but it's not upside down. Maybe he thought flipping it upside down would make it show up right on camera. Anyways, everything aside here, a very fast scout coming out from Stats to identify what Solar's up to. sometimes with team kills like this, the players that practice together really regularly, you end up with a crazy series, especially if you look at grand finals with team kills in the past. Still very rare, but in the dominant ages of KT and SKT, it happened more often than it does in, which mostly just a sponsorship era, post-KESPA, post-Pro League here in Korea. They met in the playoffs, but this is just a round-robin stage for these two. So Stats will just be annoying with this probe. Accidentally took the minerals, unfortunately, with his probe, and can't harass any further with the mining, but just wants to get an idea of how many lings are made before he leaves the base, if he wants to stick around that long.
Chrono boost on the Adept here, wants to get that out as soon as possible. Only 2 lings were made by Solar, so he's really skimping on the lings this time around. Newkirk Precinct, yeah, Robotics coming out here. Newkirk Precinct, 2-player map, but definitely pretty wide from natural to natural.
Robotics coming out here kind of signifies a somewhat unusual build. Too early for us to figure out what it's going to be. Could be the Archon drop style, if it's going to be something that's really common that we've seen in the past. That style has fallen out quite significantly since it was popular, but if he's going to go back to a style that we've seen a lot, even in this tournament, then that might be how he goes about it here with this Robo. Ling almost denied getting into the main, actually will be. The probe comes out. The Stalker here is also suspicious, right? It's like, well, why would you make a Stalker ever? Adepts are better. You're definitely trying to hide something, trying to keep my Overlord out. And it's going to be a Warp Prism, so it looks like it's just going to be an Adept drop early on. No Disruptor drops or DT drops into Archons, nothing like that. Just a standard Warp Prism coming out, and we'll look to do some damage here. Spore's already coming up, and here comes the Speed Overlord.
He should see everything. I think he's going to be on time for that Warp Prism. Just barely not. Oh, he's going to stick around. Nicely done. So he should know what this is. And
cancels the Spores, doesn't need those against the Warp Prism.
There's only 2 gateways made. Kind of funny, not usually the normal number that you see. Usually it's like 3 or 8. But I'm sure you'll get to making some more gateways a little bit later on. There's number 3.
It's going to force a reaction, too, out of Solar. For all he knows, there could be 4 gateways hidden at the third base with the pylon there or something like that. So this needs to be safe and make the extra lings, which means that Stats will actually get a probe lead with all the larva spent, the economy spent, to build lings instead of drones. This is not designed to kill Solar or even really find much damage at all. It's designed to force the lings. If Solar plays greedy, perhaps then he turns this small 2-gateway drop into maybe a 5-drone, 6-drone extravaganza. But look at how many lings are killed, or sorry, made instead of drones, and even finds a way into the third base to get a few drones there. Fortunately, this Shade, less than successful.
Yeah, it would have been nice if he could keep everything alive, but after all, as you said, just really buying time. He's not trying to do an incredible amount of economic damage here. Just does that damage through the amount of lings that were made. And those drones of Solar are going to be on the next round coming on up.
Hyper fast Templar Archive here. So we're going to see the Archon drop done without DTs here. So it's kind of a spin on the 2 Archon drop. You have High Templar instead, which are less mineral intensive, which allows you to use those minerals to make a Nexus. And then you take the Archons in. You know the DTs are very unlikely to find damage. So you just kind of skip that, cut it out altogether, find some harassment, force the lings here. And now the Archon's going to be a little bit more difficult to deal with lings alone. Looks for Queen Snipes here, actually gets 2 of them already, gets out, can just regen those shields. The Nexus was forced to cancel, but because the lings are over there, these Adepts find another way in now to the natural. Have a great position here, he's going to try to target down drones. Stats is on point with this harassment.
Yeah, definitely do like the cancel though on the third. We just assumed that he canceled it because we didn't actually see, but it was pretty low. And he was building up a bunch of minerals, so he probably did cancel it, and that is going to be delayed for quite a while. But Stats, he's definitely known for putting on some harass and then just trying to get up to 3-4 bases, make that kind of Archon Immortal, you know, Adept style work against Zerg. And this is just way too many links. He has to cancel it again.
Now we're just going to have to remake that, but the Archons are still finding some damage. The Queen's trying to push that Prism away. Ooh, it's the late pickup there, almost losing the Archon, I swear. I think one of them took hit point damage there, not shields. But Ling Rumbai's going to come over here. This time he's got sentries, but they're not going to actually hit the third base location. They're going to hit the sentries themselves. One goes down, and basically...
This is not enough Protoss.
Yeah, Solar's like doing the old day 9 principle. If he's doing something weird, just attack him, and that he does here. Catches some expensive sentries there for the gas
still
balls.
no third base.
Yeah, he doesn't have the third base. Looks like he might just go for a follow-up attack, making 2 more gateways now. Doesn't necessarily interested anymore in the third.
Yeah, we'll see if he actually, he is still pumping out probes. He could just be, it could just be a very late, ultra-safe kind of Nexus, because he was trying to throw it down very soon in the past when Solar had a ton of Lings, but now he's getting to a point where he can actually do it in a safe manner. Still no pylon over here to warp in. Just going to be warping in at the natural. And finally, we have Storm on the way. So, as I said before, Stats, he's just looking to stay back, put on some harassment, but then transition into a mid to late game kind of strategy.
His Archon's very low on shields. Ooh. Stats makes a control mistake, which will cost him one of them. Nearly lost the second. You can see his player cam. He was not happy with that one. But, yeah, definitely not respecting how low those Archon shields were. Gets punished for it. But he has nearly reached the kind of penultimate of Protoss tech, which is the High Templar Storm, as you said. Buying a lot of time.
Penultimate?
Yeah. I don't think I used that word right. But anyway...
You're channeling a bit of rapid here. I like it.
He's reached the apex here. The highest tech can really get as a Protoss for AoE. The Storm here in this matchup is going to be the way. So going to harass with these charged Zealots over here, forcing the pull away. This defends his third base. This buys time for that Storm to research. And again, moves like this are only designed to get damage if mistakes are made by Solar, but this forces the reaction, sending the Hydras back. Now Storm's done in 10. If the attack hits, if he doesn't harass, he hits the attack before Storm's ready, and Stats may just die. So these are the kind of moves you have to make to buy time and keep your opponent on his toes. Still a very close game, but Stats finally has that critical tech that's going to allow him to, if used correctly, defend the push.
He's going to have to rely only on Storms, though. They have to be perfect. There are no sentries here. Already 10 Banelings are made, so they should break through the front line really easily. So, I mean, it's only 15 Zealots.
Banelings in this Overlord as well to hit the main base to kind of distract him here. Some of these Banes actually get caught before they're done morphing. This is a nice catch if he can get them, but too many Hydras. He has to back away.
21 more Banelings on the way. Forces double overcharge already.
Yeah, no stasis wards, nothing like that. Here we go, Banelings in the natural. He's not paying attention. He does. Oh, no, he doesn't pull.
Yeah, it doesn't pull at all.
I thought he was going to.
Looking for more. Gonna get a nice bit of damage done there. But again, he had that Overlord speed from earlier on. And that's a really small amount of damage, but it's pretty nice, to continuously put on that pressure.
Looks like the Prism was killed at the top right, so he's remaking that, but that means no more ways to distract Solar while he is going for this heavy attack. He's built up that massive Baneling count. He's not morphing outside the main base this time. +2 is not ready for Stats. We'd love to have that. It's getting closer, but going to be ready in just a second here. Storm's coming down preemptively, actually. Wants to bring the fight to Solar before he has the extra Banes. Off creep here. These Banelings struggling to avoid these Storms. Archon's in good position here to still a terrifying Zerg army, however. Fighting away from those pylons, but the Warpin comes in, and most of the Templars survive. Well done. That's the tech. The quality of units of Stats is higher, and he holds.
The audience is really liking that one, and I would have to give a nice little applause in my head for that as well. The Storms were really, really on point. Solar, he was trying to split, but as you mentioned, off creep. Really hard to do that when you're going into the Protoss army, and even with the Banelings that did connect, the few that did, they hit Archons and Immortals in the front. So Stats with a really nice control, he's going to hold on, and we've seen this before. Stats has won on this map doing exactly this. I forget exactly who he was playing against, but he basically just defends and lets the Zerg stay on this very low tech and just send in wave after wave after wave, and he holds on until he gets to a place where his tech is just totally super far ahead of the Zerg.
Yeah, I think it might have been Dark, but I do remember the game you described. Oh boy, this is a catch on Templar. He does just Archon cancel that, though. Still loses 2 Templar. Probes are going to die over here, meanwhile. 17, the money shots there. Takes a massive worker lead, but this still doesn't alleviate the bigger problem, the tech, the harassment that Stats has now forced several drones to be pulled. He's killed a few of his own, but the tech problem is the main problem. The economy for Stats, that's easily recoverable. He's got 4 Nexi and Chrono Boost.
He's fine. I mean, he's running out of mining in his main. He could just send those over to the 4th base and stay on similar mining for now. I think just as you're saying, as long as he can get enough energy on those High Templar for more Storm, he should be pretty fine. But we do have a lot of Banelings being morphed in here. Again, really good Storms. Those Banelings
pretty
gonna go down.
Haphazard attack here from Solar. Does get one of the Templar, if I saw that correctly. It was harder to track that because they just disappear into the air.
There's only 2 more Templar in there. That's a bit of a problem.
Yeah, well, he's got so many Archons, too, that are going to basically make these Banelings worthless. The Immortal Barriers, too, just absorbing all that DPS. And
fights with half his army. I mean,
yeah, this army is now getting smaller and smaller. The 2 Templari warped in are getting more Storm energy. Warps in a few more here, 1 more Zealot. And the Zealot harassment continues to go on. And finally, Solar says enough is enough with this comp. I'm going to switch to higher tech. Does go ahead and grab an Infestation, but he's making another drop Overlord to look for some more harassment. But Stats is, his army is just getting stronger and stronger because now he's finally given enough room to just build as many High Templar as he wants to, build that extra energy, even add additional gateways right now. And soon, yeah, I was going to say, soon he's going to have a prism coming across the map as well, and it's right here.
It's the slow shift from, you know, Zerg favored army into this gigantic super high-tech Protoss army, because first attack he had like 2-3 Archons, now he's got 6 and 8 High Templar, and Solar is still on the same tech. And he's looking for an attack too. I don't like this idea. We got more and more Archons being made. A couple of them morphing right now. I guess maybe just one. He's going to stay on 8 High Templar, it seems. And looks like the transition will be into Broodlords as he is making that Spire and the Hive.
I just feel like the time taken to get this tech is going to be, it's going to take a long time. And if Sats gets any inkling of this, he already sees the Hive is coming. But if he sees the Spire, then he just makes Stargate tech.
Look at that, he's already making it.
Yeah, just going to goes into the Tempest. You can expect reasonably that this is going to be the tech. He already has a lot of Immortals on the ground. He's making an additional one right now. So if by some chance it's Ultralisk instead, which seems silly, then he's going to have that answer too. So he's basically just kind of building this catch-all late game tech because he doesn't have to worry about this pressure coming across the map anymore, because this was once terrifying. That same comp 5 minutes ago is no longer even worrisome. It's not, all he has to do is make sure his units are in position, and this army of Solar will do nothing because it's just so weak comparatively. I'm going to look up the army cost here is much higher. 5,000 basically for Stats to 5,000, 1,500 for gas, 1,450 to 4,450 in comparison right now, and that's why this army is so much stronger, it's so much more expensive, and it's so much more cost efficient. This is a nice catch though.
Oh boy, that's like 5 or 6 High Templar for free.
Stats gives another massive sigh here.
What did you say before? You're like, all he has to do is get his army in position and he should destroy this composition. But, well, giving away that many High Templar, that's not having your army in position.
Stats heaps a huge sigh after that one. Just struggling this multitasking. When the Lings came in, he just wasn't paying attention to his Templar anymore. Still, just a small setback for Stats in terms of tech. He still has 12 Archons on the map, 6 High Templar, which is in itself quite a feat to build up that many in this very hyper-aggressive Zerg place against this hyper-aggressive Zerg playstyle. That's going to be a drop Overlord that's not doing any more harassment.
He needs to attack now, though. I mean, if he wants to attack before Broodlords are coming out, he needs to attack now. And I guess my question is answered that he doesn't want to attack before Broodlords because, I mean, he's making 2 more Stargates here. He's getting his Fleet Beacon. He's adding another Nexus. He can pressure against this army until he sees Broodlords. He doesn't know the exact timing as we do, but he's got to be careful not to go too overboard. That's actually a big deal.
Okay, you realize this. I think perhaps the bigger question now becomes, did he need to attack before the Broodlords? He already has the answer pre-made here. He's getting the +1. His Fleet Beacon's about to finish, so he's going to have 3 Stargates, if I'm not mistaken, so he can make 3 Tempests at a time. And I just don't know if he needs to attack, because he's getting harassment damage done. He has the better economy. He has the better tech. He has the answer to the tech that Solar is trying to bring to the table. So attacking feels like it leaves open some potential risk, whereas defending here and just getting the higher tech is the better way to go about it. It leaves Solar a window, though, of time to get back into the game. He'll finally feel flexible to switch tech, build a bank for the first time this game.
It definitely is the Stats way, too. You know, he's not really known for flying off the... What's the phrase? Flying off the hammer?
Flying off the hook? Flying off the... I don't know, man.
Maybe it's the hook.
You know me and expressions, man. I don't know.
So, something like that, you know, basically the
Flying
same
off
thing.
the handle?
Yeah, there it is. There it is. Flying off the handle. I was thinking hammer. I don't know why, but he doesn't fly off the handle. He doesn't go overboard with his attacks. He always likes to play it passive, get that Protoss Death Ball, and then attack once he has all the stuff that he wants. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's like, okay, you have Broodlords, I need my Tempest. I'll just give that Nexus away.
Yeah, the Nexus was the closer one. He takes the further away one now. Has 3 Tempests and a bunch of Archons, so could just kind of back off here and start picking away at the Broodlords. He's going to have 6 Tempests soon, and that's going to be when it gets real nasty. The +1 weapons will finish here as well. And the ground army is being protected by the Broodlords right now, so he's going to try to grab another Nexus. But this is a scary moment for Solar. This far out of creep with 12 Archons on the ground. Those Broodlords, if the Archons get underneath, it is lights out. And while they slowly fly back, the protection is here for the Storms, and the Tempest are on the chase. This is not a good fight for him to take with the Broodlords there, but he kills a lot of the ground army with that Archon splash.
Yeah, finally the Overseers come in, but you could see he was going to test the waters with the fight, but then running into the Storms, he's like, oh wait, no, I can't. And Tempest, they do a lot of damage right now to Massive. I think you can 4-shot a Broodlord.
Yeah.
Doesn't actually confirm it there, but...
As you can see, though, they're starting to go away. Yeah, now he's got 5 Tempests.
5-shot. Got 225 health in these Broodlords. Well, coming in consistently. I think he does have more Storm underneath that Mothership. The slow, continuous push coming in, trying to get some strike back damage. And here we go.
Mothership here, he has enough Overseers, of course, to deal with this, but there's just unlimited Storms right now. This Protoss army, again, the quality of army much higher, has the AoE. The Archons fade away, though. Just too much in the air. The Tempest wipe out the Broodlords. Archon's being morphed here. He recalls for safety, but he has the larger army still. He has the tech to deal with the air units here. He has this 5th base. Unfortunately not mining, however.
He'll get that mining eventually. It looks like Solar may have spotted that. Yeah, he's got something up there. And nope, just going to back off, add another base of his own. And yeah, it was a pretty even fight, but as you mentioned, still the Tempest in the sky, the Mothership does survive. And Solar, I mean, he doesn't really have much of a bank to rebuild anything. He lost all of his Broodlords. He has a total of 0 right now. He can't even make 1 Broodlord right now with his 5 Corruptors that he's got. So he's just going back into Ling Hydra, a pretty pathetic composition for where we're at in this game right now.
I mean, it's the comp he's been using the whole game long, and it has just not worked for him because Stats got the fast High Templar tech. It was really a nice, cool spin on the DT drops into Archon drops, going for the faster High Templar, using a small set of Adepts with just 2 gateways to get the pressure on, force those Lings out early. And he was very willing to cancel his 3rd base several times. I think 3 times he had to cancel it. Still got that higher tech. So I thought he was going to win the game off of it, but wasn't patient enough or willing to tech up to any higher. So it's really critical that Solar has this 5th base here. Without it, he would certainly be lost in this game without the money that it brings, but still he's going to struggle with this army to save the 5th base as the attack is real. Could see a recall here, not anymore. It's going to go down.
Yeah, it is going to go down. Finally, the Zealots come in the perfect time.
GG.
There you go. Game number 1 going to go over to Stats here in this PVC. And that was a 20-minute game. That was really back and forth.
I didn't need the recall there when the army was just smashed. The low tech versus supreme maximum tech, what I call it, the penultimate Protoss. He went all the way to Templar tech on 2 bases while getting the 3rd, canceled it several times, was willing to sacrifice economy for higher tech to deal with the push that he knew was coming. We've seen so many times on Newkirk Precinct. That game looked very similar to a lot of games we've seen, but the difference being the faster Storm coming out, the harassment we saw to buy time for the Storm with the Zealot charge harass at the 3rd base, the early Adept attack to force Lings out. Really well played by Stats, and looks to be pretty solid going into game 2.
Yeah, I'm still feeling the Solar hype, though. I still do think that he is going to take the series, funnily enough. I think Newkirk Precinct is Stats' perfect map to say, okay, we're not going to fight unless you want to before 15 minutes, before I have the Archons, before I have the Storm. If you want to run into me, that's fine, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to fight you. I'm not going to go to your base. So I think going into Overgrowth for game 2, definitely more of Solar's playing field.
we'll see if he can make it happen. The pressure is on now. You know, he was able to win and go to the finals, got crushed there. Now he wants to come back with a splash, come back with vengeance here.
We'll see if he can do it going into game number 2 on Overgrowth.
Cracking under the pressure, rising up and getting underneath your skin. Feel it turning to lead.
Again, lots of Splice fans here in the audience, and we finally got a cheer going in Premier. Lots of people coming down for the first day. Down here in the bottom left, the purple Zerg, it is Solar. Needs to win 2 in a row to come back in this one.
And his opponent to the top right in yellow, it is of course Stats. So looking at the map draft, this was Solar's map, so no surprises, right? Newkirk Precinct was the #1 choice for Stats. Completely out of the draft for Solar, knows his teammates' play style very well. Still fell into his hands in game number 1, but interesting, a decision to go Nexus first. After thinking about the gateway, Stats goes home to the main base. We'll look for the eco build here. So freestyling.
He had a cheeky little grin on his face. I was wondering what he had planned, because when you're going up against Solar on Overgrowth, as we've been talking about, I think you have to have something weird planned, and this is one way to do it. Get ahead in the economy and, again, just play your kind of passive style and hope that you don't die to Solar. I think it's not a bad idea when you're going up against this guy.
I would agree fully, and when you look at the builds chosen with the greediest possible pool for Solar, Stats gets away with this. This is exactly what he wanted. This is exactly what he wanted Solar to be doing, and he still has a little bit of a cheeky smile, as you said, on his face here. So he adds his gases now and looks to come into this with an economic foothold in the game early. We see the double gates here, so might even see an adept follow-up from this. I like how this is being executed so far for Stats. It's very map-specific to go the double gateway here. You wouldn't be able to pull it off on Whirlwind. Newkirk is pretty questionable, and this is the way to do it. So Cybercore somewhat exposed, but that's not really that significant. It's kind of a...
Protects the pylon.
Yeah.
I think. Maybe if it's a Baneling bust, the pylon would still get hit.
Yeah, but like with this very small area, but...
Yeah. Can't get surrounded, the pylon, which is more important.
Exactly. Because he doesn't know what's coming his way just yet, and that would have been risky. So does mean it gets scouted a little bit faster, and if Solar was doing some sort of weird like roach push, which would be crazier than the gateway being out there by far, it's going to be fine. Probably not too worried about that Cybercore anytime soon. We'll shelve this, though, for later, because this may become important in the game because of that placement. Cybernetics Core is so critical. You don't think of the Cybernetics Core as tech, but it really is. It allows you to make ranged units as Protoss, which is the most important thing of all against a Zerg. Ling's coming to the main base, but he's already scouted what he needed to see, which is the double gateways. We'll come in here and see the Twilight Council, which was the obvious follow-up, but he gets confirmation.
That's good that he gets in there and sees that, and he's trying to make this as annoying as possible. But both of these Lings will get killed. I was thinking maybe I spoke too soon, but the Ling actually does die.
He got to kiss the Nexus before he went down. That was his goal.
He got to live the life of a Protoss peasant first. Ran around the base. Said, okay, I've seen everything. I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
We got this Glaives research on the way.
Well, the Glaives, when they come out, is going to be the crux of this push. It almost feels like Stats has just said to himself, this is going to be tough, this map, against Solar. His style plays so well against mine here. What I'm going to do instead of trying to take a third base and get Psystorm up and play like I did on Newkirk, I'm going to just do a timing attack here, look to do at least a significant amount of damage to get massively ahead or end the game. If it doesn't work out, I'll accept the fact that I'm behind, but we'll just go to Game 3. I'm already up. Game 3 is going to be Abyssal Reef, a map that he prioritized in his draft. It's one he wants more, so, well, never mind everything I just said.
Yeah, we'll just shelve that for later, if you will. Yeah, double Stargate on the way. And, I mean, generally, when you're doing this on 2 bases, because you cannot afford to make, you know, double Oracle, double Void Ray, or anything weird like that, this means Phoenixes.
I wonder if he'll just go Oracles, though, and just rally the Oracles across.
Well, I mean, it looks like he might just want to go some kind of 2-base Oracle, or rather, Phoenix Adepts kind of composition.
Yeah, this is going to be the Phoenixes. This is just so weird. The Oracles could do really well to help defend your 3rd base, for example, which you wanted to make there with that probe. Plot. Wouldn't have had the Oracles out anyways, but can also strengthen your attack for dealing with ground units. But the Phoenixes are insanely powerful. Kill all the Overlords, clear up the map. Just
this
not going to be
is
as
the
useful.
money scout.
Yeah.
Oh boy, sees everything.
Well, the Phoenix is not going to be as useful against Lings, so let's see how Solar builds the comp here. Almost got the block on that 3rd base. That would have been so massive. The first probe already killed.
Stats is still, okay, he is making probes. He's gone up to 49. I was wondering if he was just going to stop at that weird number and just continue to go, but he hasn't made any more gates. He's still only on 3, and he's adding a lot more tech. So we will see him just commit to this kind of composition. Getting the Stargates first, definitely a lot safer than getting them after the 3rd Nexus.
It's just so funny. This is almost like a Brood War style where you build a bunch of Corsairs to push the Overlords away, threaten bases with your ground army, and take your 3rd base, get your Storm. It's 2nd base in Brood War, of course, and Corsairs and Phoenixes function very differently, but it's kind of the idea of hunting down Overlords, forcing the Zerg to play a little bit more defensively, group up his Overlords. You can kill drones with Phoenixes, that's their extra functionality over the Corsair, and that is what he gets done here. 3 drone kills, a few Overlords, I think 3 in total with these so far, including the scouting Overlords. So now Solar doesn't have that much information. As the Storm comes down, the +1. And he's going to use this Phoenix tech to try to grab on to the Storm tech safely, force the Zerg to be defensive. And even on this map, it can work out. He used the Warp Prism and the Zealot Harass to achieve the same goal on Newkirk, now using the Phoenixes on Overgrowth. Killing some Hydras here, actually, as they come out one by one.
One by one, they march in. Always the wrong idea with the Hydras. He's getting a lot of these, actually. The value Phoenixes, for sure. And he's not going to overstay his welcome. Looks like, well, actually he is, just sitting there as he deals with these Lings that are running around his base. And that's not enough Hydras. He can actually even just fly over that Spore and pick him off if he wants.
Yeah, I think energy is the bigger problem here, but he's dealing with other stuff, dealing with the Lings, as you said. And Storm, you know, once a far-off dream, now is going to be started as I say these words. For a second I was like, he's not starting it. Did you finish it? Had to check your PC, but Storm, charge, the extra gateways, all these things that Solar has to defend. Look at this army coming across the map. He's already scoured the 4th base. He's going to threaten that, force the Zerg army to yet again be defensive. And it feels that Stats has this understanding of Supreme Tech, showing the Adepts, showing the Glaives early on, forcing Solar to at least make a lot of units defensively. Then Solar tried to turn that unit composition into an attack force that would threaten the 3rd base, but unfortunately, because of all the Phoenix harassment that's coming on here, he has to sit back and defend. What would have been interesting to me to see was if Solar sent all of his Roaches only across the map, leave the Hydras at home with Spore Crawlers to defend the Phoenixes, try to find some harassment. That might have been one way to do it, but he is going to move across the map now, finally confident enough. But again, turned around by the Warp Prism.
One pesky Warp Prism doing its job, and even if these Zealots got 0 damage, this would be really, really nice. And he actually is splitting up his army now. He's not sending everything back home. And he's going for these rocks, looking to open up another attack path. This will be easily cleaned up. More and more Roaches on the way. But again, Stats, he has bought a lot of time for the Storm. The question is, you know, Solar, he's not going for that cheaper Ling Bane Hydra composition this time. He's gone Roach Hydra. So he's really just trying to hit him at max supply at 200-200. And the Storms are not going to be quite as effective. against all of these roaches, so we'll see how this attack works out. Looks like he wants to come from 2 angles here.
Yep, this is the better way to do it. There are pylons in position, but the overcharge is not actually. This mothership on the left side. Going to send the storms over to the right side now, and they blanket this army. But remember, it's more roach composition here than it is Hydra, and the roaches just are so tanky, so many hit points. The storm not as effective. These units are not glass cannon units, so Solar's composition here more better equipped to deal with the size storms, and he's already picking off Templar. This may just be too much. Coming in with the roaches now. Few lifts coming off and a few more zealots warping in, but that immortal falls, and this is just too good of a trade right now for Solar.
Yeah, it looks like he has done it. The Phoenix is getting there late, not on time to pick up all of those units that he needed to, and Solar just going to make as many roaches, lings, and hydras to follow up to end this game. This is part of the reason why this map is so good for Solar. He just maxes out on 200. He knew exactly what Stats was doing. Third base was late for Stats. He wasn't greedy enough, and Solar just had too much stuff.
Yeah, Stats knows this game is over. Just thinking about game number 3 now as he warps in zealots, but he's already identified how far behind he is. Takes a 4th base just because. But look at all the money he has. It's to build more High Templar, to build storms, to deal with the army that it was going to be, at least he thought, similar to the army he saw in game number 1. But with the roaches coming out, their extra hit points, their armor is not, the storms ignore the armor, but doesn't ignore the high health pool of these units. Horns on top of their heads feel like umbrellas here as he eats the storms. GG. Solar is bringing us to a game 3. And your prediction seems to be coming a little bit closer to fruition here.
Everything's following my devious plan. And, yeah, we are jumping into Abyssal Reef, so I think this still should favor Stats here, actually, in his very passive style. It's going to be much, much harder for Solar to try to break into Stats' base on a map like this. Definitely has an opportunity at the third. I think if he is going to get aggressive, probably some kind of timing attack like that at the third base on this map. But outside of that, we might just have another late game.
Feels like Solar just said, oh, you're going to play like that today? I'll make roaches. I thought he might attack with the roaches earlier to leave the Hydras at home, defend the Phoenixes, have the roaches threatening the third base, maybe force a cancel with a few lings over there too. But he just wanted to have the mass attack where the roaches are at the front, they tank the storms, the Hydras survive at the back and start doing the real damage while the roaches are just impossible to deal with. They have high regenerate, high health. That's why they're called roaches, right? You go back and look at how the roach was made.
Is that why they're called roaches?
If you look back at how the roach was made, you watch the interviews with Dustin Browder, for example. He says, I wanted this roach to be this armored, heavily difficult to kill unit that has a lot of health. You know, the joke always is roaches can survive nuclear bombs, right? And with these roaches, difficult to kill, very tanky, and they eat the storms, no problem, and keep chucking out that acid. And we're going into game number 3, guys. See if Stats can bring it back or if Solar is going to carry the momentum.
Here we are going into map number 3. Abyssal Reef will be the choice. And down here in the bottom right, the purple Zerg making his way back, giving us our first 2-1 series. It is Solar.
And up to the top left, it is Stats. Wants to utilize this harass style to hold on, get Templar tech, and hold a third base. But against roaches, it's definitely not as easily done. He didn't find a large amount of damage either in the last set. Well, so probe comes across here. Just going to be the gateway. I had flashbacks of cannon rushes for a moment. Wants to block this hatch. The drone is going to the third base, though, knowing that Stats always probe scouts in this matchup. And he's just going to be able to take that easily for free. So Stats ends up wasting mining time, essentially, and may now work under false pretenses that there isn't a natural coming up here.
He's moved around, actually. We'll see if he goes into the main just to check. Looks like that is what he's going to do. Sees no pool. Should know that the third was taken in instead, and we'll just go ahead and harass here a bit. And what will be the strategy for Solar this time around? Because I think we all know what Stats is going to do. I don't think it's any big surprise. You know, how he gets to that composition can be a bit of a surprise, but as we did see in game number 2, he was going for a lot more Phoenixes in the composition, rather. But Solar, he did, as I said before, he has an opportunity to attack the third base. Not really the natural at all, but he can do some kind of timing attack at the third. But he could try to take this late, like super, super late, because it is Abyssal Reef. And that is another option that is available to him.
Pylon. Now, this is probably going to be a Stargate, but it could be, you know, something crazy like a Hidden Gateway, Dark Templar tech to go into the Archon drop. I think it's probably just going to be the Stargate as the Cyber Core comes up. The timing lines up with this basically perfectly with 150 gas. Gets the Adept first, and then we'll drop the Stargate here. Waiting for it, waiting for it. Boom. Probe's like, oh.
There's a little bit of lag.
Well, it's funny because the Stargate placement, I think, was probably the reason, because it's like barely fits behind those minerals. Might have had to make it in a different place had it not just fit there at the last moment.
I mean, he's probably done this before.
Definitely.
But yeah, just barely fits in there. Right up against the wall. Right behind the minerals. Solar going for his own third base. Hasn't scouted this just yet. He's trying to skirt around the edges of the natural, see what he can see, but no other opportunity to get scouting information done at all. Doesn't have enough gas to go for the Overlord speed just yet.
Hit that hatchery. Show him who's boss. You're a living, moving, sentient creature. That's just on the ground. It's actually just like hold position here between the bases.
He could have ran into the main and seen no tech, but decided against it. Wasn't microing his Ling.
I think he was more concerned about this Adept. He's like, what is this Adept doing? Well, the Oracle's going to come out here. Additional Queens have been made. The Spores are being started. Because this is proxied, and the timing of this, he'll actually arrive before the Spores are ready, but he won't be able to do a massive amount of damage. This does open up the potential for these two Adepts, though, to find real damage at the third base when the Oracle goes into the main, and there's a big reaction. Yeah. It's going to be a second Oracle as well.
Solar, he's done this before where he gets greedy with his Spores. He only makes one in the main. Thankfully for him, Stats is going directly to the Spored base, and now he is going to be able to add some Spores at some other bases, but yeah. Just makes that one Spore, gets away with it. Oracle gets 3 kills. These Adepts trying to focus down more.
There's no Lings here, so these Adepts are able to get in here, deal with or just ignore the Queen, target down drones. Now they're going to get the Shade, at least one of them will, and the Natural here, which doesn't have any drones at all, as massive Lings are being made here for Solar, and he gets the +1 melee for the Lings currently. So more and more drones being taken out here. Stats heavily commits to flying over that Spore, though. Could see I feel like Stats' emotions, when we normally kind of tell the stories of what he'd likely be feeling, but he is wearing them on his sleeve today watching the player camera.
He's been hanging out with Beyond too much, maybe.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, that's doing some pretty significant damage overall. You know, not a ton of drone kills, but he forced a bunch of Lings, too. Lings came over here. They're trying to deny this third base of Stats. You can see that there is this Probe coming over to make it right now. Will get away with it. He makes that pylon. Well done, Probe.
Yeah.
You served very well.
Probe did his job, man. Gonna be replaced.
Probe?
No, just I paused. I don't know. Probe did his job, and he's gonna be replaced by a newer model. That's just the way of technology. I'm gonna upgrade my phone soon.
Yeah, me and you were phone buddies. We're synced.
Yeah.
Buying our phone basically at the same time.
Buying phones is stressful. It's like the thing that you use more than anything else in your life. You touch your phone more than you touch anything else, man. It's like in your hands nonstop. Well, maybe I assumed wrong for you, but
yeah, I mean, never want to assume those kinds of things, Wolf.
Sure. You know what they say about assuming is sometimes you just assume the wrong thing, and
that's exactly what they say about assuming.
And then you're wrong and you offend somebody.
The wordsmith coming through again. Lots of Lings being made. Solar might want to get aggressive here. He's stopped at only 45 drones. This is spotted, and
Queen's in this drop too, so he's going to be able to push the Oracles away. think attacked his own Overlord for a second there, but was just trying to get inside the Overlord. He's going to send it across.
I was talking about timings. This wasn't really the timing I was looking for, but...
I mean, there was a lot of commitment to Lings, right? That was the thing we noticed most. If he had killed the Oracles, this would have been a more reasonable attack, I feel. The Oracles are going to be able to do so much extra damage to Lings. The Queens might be able to get onto those Oracles, but there's a lot of sentries here, too. And Sat just has a well-set-up third base. It's been the story of this guy all series long. Thought it was a Baneling drop. It's going to be Queens over here. As we see the second one going off. This one's Banelings. He does pull the sentries away, but leaves the probes. He's dealing with this attack over here. Needs to turn those Oracles on. The Queens are going to go chase them down. They're very low on hit points.
Trying to focus them down right now. He does push them away, but Stats keeps them both alive. Bad targeting here by Solar.
The force field is perfect as well. Traps a lot of these Lings, and if this were a game of dodgeball, Stats would have caught it, man. And it feels like Solar might be out with this push because the attack is thwarted completely. And now with 3 bases up, the High Templar tech is here. He's going to be able to get +2 the charge. He can research Storm now. He has the resources to do so. The Queen attack over here is cute. You know, he's going to look for a little bit more damage, but it's never going to be as significant as what Solar was trying to do there. And basically, he went for this attack hoping that Solar would make mistakes, or sorry, hoping that Sats would make mistakes on the defense because it's attacking basically 2 locations at once with high mobility units. The Queen's ferrying over, the Baneling drop going in, but Stats handled it basically perfectly.
Yeah, his defense was pretty stellar. Really got to hand it to him, but again, I wasn't too big of a fan of that attack by Solar. I was expecting more, you know, Roach Ravager type. Go for those sentries that no doubt Stats is going to be making on this map. And instead he goes for that. But you could tell we were kind of on the same wavelength. He did want to put a wrench into the gears of Stats' build. Didn't want to just give him that free third base. But again, I don't feel like that was the attack. Now, Solar, his build is way far behind. He is getting a bunch of Hydras out here. But look at this really strong army of the Protoss
He just
already.
has no tech versus all these sentries. The Lings and the Banelings not going to be very useful as he tries to get the Hydras out here, but it's going to be so few of them. Force fields are already going down, trapping the Hydras here. The Archon's doing a lot in the front. He has the Warp Prism at the back to continue to warp in. And Zealots with charge. Another good force field here. This may just be game over. The tech advantage was real for Stats all series long. Didn't have the answer to the Roaches in game 2, though. This time he just has the counterattack. That's GG. He takes the series 2-1.
Stats taking this one. Really stellar defense. And he makes it work there on Abyssal Reef. I feel like the maps really did favor Stats in this kind of series, but he played very well to them. Solar, you have to admire the shot that he gave it there on Abyssal Reef. Did not want to play in that late game against Protoss, against Stats.
Very risky strategy, and a little bit... I feel like it just relied on Stats having a weak defense and not actually moving his units correctly, splitting against the Bands, which he did, while also putting force fields as natural and dealing with the Queens and pulling his probes there. It was just all over the place, that attack. It was a very strong attack, but good defense there. And when that happens, the game's just over, right? It was not an all-in, but because he did so little damage, there was no way to transition.
Yeah, so Stats actually able to take that one over his teammates here. The Protoss does reign supreme. Solar not able to make any more make his win percentage against Protoss any bigger tonight. So kind of unfortunate there. Taking a look at the next matchup that we have, it is going to be Deer versus Maru. So it's actually going to be pretty exciting. I mean, Maru, he wasn't looking as solid as normal in Premier for last season, and Deer, he was looking really, really strong towards the end. He 3-0'd Beyond in challenge in his last match. So this guy definitely has an opportunity to take out Maru here.
Definitely does. But before we head over to that, maybe we are going to go right into it without a break. Did not know. Oh, we're having an interview with Stats, actually.
Oh, okay. Got some interview action here.
I was like, why don't we get in the commercial cues? Why don't I see the next match at the bottom? So we'll bring you guys a translation for this.
Stats, it took you a while, but you did get the victory. How did you feel about it? Stats says it's very emotional in a hopeful way before coming into the studio today. Saw those emotions. He was really excited, wondering what kind of game, what kind of form he would have today. But overall, he just came in with a very good mindset. It feels like it's very meaningful because he did get the victory in the end. Stats did have a very good day.
Pretty solid. It was all right. Beats his teammate.
Game 2, the Tempest, it must have been game 1. The Tempest were really good in turning that game around. When did you predict your victory in that series? It says even before the Tempest, he feels like his storms were really on point against his Baneling, against Solar's Baneling Hydra composition. He really was on point with those today. That storm was a really rallying moment for him. It refreshed his morale. It made him feel a lot better about his chances in that game. In set 1, he says the earlier starports was very important for getting out those Tempests in the later game. He said because he had those starports up in time, that was one of the only reasons he was able to defend against the Broodlords.
So humble. He was completely prepared. He finished all his stargates before the Broodlord started morphing. He's like, I was so scared I wasn't gonna have my time. I'm like, oh no, you weren't.
It's perfect timing, basically. Set 2, losing to Solar. He feels like Solar knew exactly what he was going to do, knew what build he was going to bring in, and he countered it pretty heavily. Had a lot of spores up early. I had to really force myself to chip away as many drones as possible.
Yeah, it was pretty tough to get in there and find those kills.
Yeah, I think he's talking about game 3 there. A lot of players believe that PVZ is getting a lot more favorable towards the Zerg. Stat says, I don't really have a clear-cut answer to that, but he personally feels like his game 1, where I survived at the very end and tried to win with higher tech, is a pretty good option in the matchup. Coming into Season 2, Stats, what kind of hopes do you have for your chances in Season 2? I once got the runner-up in the SSL to Dirk. Even though that's a good achievement that he got that one time, it still hurts to think about. So he'll be trying his best to win it all this time around.
No doubt. So that'll do it for our first 3 matches. We are going to go to a commercial break before we go into our 4th match, Deer versus Maru. We'll see you then.